Hey y'all, welcome. I am taking a moment to pause. It's Saturday and it's my morning time. I extend my morning times on Saturday until about 2 p.m. So we're gonna all pretend that we're still having a morning. So everyone, welcome. If you're joining me, let's pretend like we are sitting across the table from each other, having a conversation, because I just finished having a conversation with my spirit guides and I want to bring you in on it. So, if you've heard me talk about human design, in any shape or form, or watch or have seen posts on Instagram or whatever, we know that human design is, and we've come into the understanding that human design takes our birth time and day and place into helping us understand who we are. So does astrology. I want to talk more about these things. In human design, I am an experimenter. I am somebody who researches and questions, and while I'm doing things, I'm also in the process of figuring it out. So this is a moment where we're capturing of me figuring it out. So, one of the best ways for me to do that is talking it out. We are going to have a conversation and we're going to talk it out. If anything really clicks for you, or if you want to share something, please feel free to put it in the comments, and I respond to comments and I see all of those. I preface with those things because I'm in a moment of like wiring and rewiring my brain. If you've seen my coming out story, then you know I grew up in a religious household. There's still a part of me and a part of my brain that wants to attach itself to a higher power in the form of a person, place, thing. There's still that part of me that doesn't believe that I am powerful enough and that I have the answers within. So the question that I am bringing to us, how come we don't trust ourselves? And mostly I'm asking for myself. I've struggled with this for years, and I understand reasons why I don't trust myself, but I'm bringing it here for us to hash out. Not just for me, though, but for all of us. Why is it that we struggle with this? Like, I want more answers, I want more clarification. So, in human design, there's this thing called an incarnation cross, and it basically just tells us individually what our purpose in life is. And quite honestly, I felt like mine wasn't specific enough. Maybe you relate with this. Just tell me, please, what I am to do. What is this purpose? What is this thing that we call a purpose? And how am I supposed to do that? Is it in this industry? Is it in this thing that I do? Is it in something completely different that I maybe don't see, understand? Just tell me what I'm supposed to do. And I don't think that I'm alone in this question. And so that's why I'm bringing it to us to think about, to talk about. And maybe you just sit and listen and are thinking with me through these things. That's totally fine. But I feel like it's important to talk about. I'll be completely honest. I'm kind of struggling through this. I have all these resources. Like, I have all these certifications. I have all this knowledge within me, unique gifts, special abilities, and yet I'm still struggling with this thing of like, what am I supposed to do? How am I supposed to do that? I ask these questions to myself, and then I'm like, I don't think I'm the only one who's asking this. Here's where I started to understand my questions. I grew up in a religious household, and if you did as well, then you know that we are taught to not trust ourselves. We are taught to trust a higher power outside of us and to basically disregard every inkling within us. I'm still uncovering all the reasons why, but this is as far as I've gotten so far. And I have been in years of counseling. I'm still working through this and what it means for me. Why was I taught to not trust myself? And why is it such a struggle to trust myself? You know? And I think as women, we struggle with that differently, and female presenting, and also those of us that have a uterus, we are really, not just really, I feel like that's a really plastered way of saying that like we are a group of people that have been shut down, have been disregarded, have been told that we should be a certain way. If you're watching this to date, so we are in 2025, this is June, we're almost closing out June. So we're like in the endings of June. And also, I want to mention that I feel is important astrology wise that we just celebrated the June solstice. We just entered Cancer season, so the sun being in Cancer. And I'm gonna be completely honest, I don't have all these things memorized, but I do follow Chani, their app, their podcast, their Instagram. I'm so thankful for their resource. Their Down to Astro podcast is where they talk about like the energies and what's kind of going on right now in America and Canada and all over the world. That's who I get my astrology foresight and be able to understand what's going on because of what goes on. Astrology affects me internally and sometimes in my outside world. But it really helps to know what's going on because those energies that are outside of the earth really do affect us. And I think that from the male dominant capitalistic perspective, they have tried to remove us from that and tell us that that doesn't matter. Here's the thing, the divine feminine is taking place, and together with divine masculine, we'll dive more in. I'm going to have my older sister, Kim, who's very wise and I really look up to. And what she says, I pretty much always take it to heart. And I know that you will be blessed with her presence when she is ready to be with us. When it comes to the astrology, the sun has just moved into Cancer. I don't have Cancer people in my life. I do have Gemini people. You know, they are usually described as like sweet and sour, and that is very true. Astrology wise, there are shifts going on in our world politically and down from there. Corporations, businesses, people, different groups of people, religious, non-religious, other small businesses, entities, those that are, the list could go on. Every group of people, every person is going through a major shift right now. In the last couple of years, a lot of us have already been going through shifts. We find ourselves in this moment acknowledging and realizing that we can no longer trust the people in power. And I'm not just talking about presidential power, Congress, judicial, legislative, mayors, and, government wise. I'm also talking about those of us that are affected by and maybe still subscribe to a religion, those of us that are working in corporations, those of us that don't work in corporations, but all of us are part of different communities that are realizing we can't trust the people in power now because they're obliterating everything. And so I am seeing and I'm finding within myself, like I said, this question, who can I trust? Is there proof to trust them? How do I know that I can? And I think before we even get to who can I trust outside of me, we're like being, I don't know if the word is like forced, but like coming to this place, coming to this space within ourselves, within each other, and within and in individually. This question of how do I trust myself. So I was talking it out with my ancestors, and it really helps me when I talk things out just by myself. And I think this is related to, in my human design chart, my throat center, the energy center is open, meaning that it is affected by outside energies and like the people I'm around. Compared to somebody who has that center closed, they get more of like the internal knowing from within themselves. For me, in having an open throat center, it helps me to talk things out in my own space. And even with talking with you, because as I'm talking to you, I'm also talking to myself and I can, I hear myself speak. And as those words reverberate, I think that's a word, or I just made it up, or as that frequency leaves my energy, my mouth, my tongue, it's also working subconsciously. And my brain is thinking, and spiritually working things out. For some of us that have open centers in the body, I'm talking about like head, throat, heart, those types of centers that we also talk about within different cultures, even like Reiki. Those centers get affected differently by what's around us. I think, like I said, we're all being asked and being presented with the opportunity to question, can I trust myself? But how do I do that? I've struggled with that for so long. So with my religious upbringing, like I said, I was taught to not trust myself. So there would be experiences, spiritual experiences that I had where I then shared that with people and they were like, well, is that even in the Bible? Even within Christianity, there's like different compartments. There's different religions even within that. So like there's Catholicism, there's Baptist, there's Assembly of God, there's Foursquare. I mean, I couldn't even list them all because I don't know them all. But even those institutions have their own educational systems from childhood to college age. A lot of these institutions solidify the belief that we have to get permission from an outside source to be able to do, believe, think, XYZ. A lot of these institutions' way of thinking have removed us from that internal trust within ourselves. What we also call in psychology being autonomous, being an having autonomy, meaning like being able to do your life how you see fit. And so we're looking at this a really broad perspective because when we zoom in, on a micro level, we're also talking about how people believe that trans individuals shouldn't live or be. And I disagree with that. And then we also have other individuals that believe white people should be the only race. We have other people that don't believe in a God or higher power in that way. And from what I'm learning up to this point in my life is that every experience is that person's experience. But that person's experience, truth or whatever that may be, isn't going to be the same truth for the next person. And what I've seen a lot of people in the Christian community struggle with from what's being taught to them is that their experience, their belief is the only way, and nothing could be different from that. And that is just false because it doesn't take into perspective and understanding that there are people different than them. And a lot of history goes into that, of making that belief so strong. And it's so strong that it has hurt people, literally, all the way back from when our nation began. This belief that this is the only way. But that belief has also affected us today. And I'm not just talking spiritually, but I'm talking that there are people that can't understand that change is going to happen. I understand that not all change feels good and not all change is liked or wanted. But with life, the thing that you and I cannot stop from happening is change. And within the current change that we are experiencing, it's an opportunity to cultivate a different relationship within ourselves, with ourselves. In psychology, there's this part that we talk about that's called the ego. And in a lot of different perspectives, the ego is also referred to as the child, or words used like inner child. So that part of us is the part of us that has been there since we were born. So as we grow, we still carry all the different ages that we were with us because the mind still carries those memories. The brain still holds those emotional experiences from everything that happened from, pardon me, when you were born to your right now moments. Everything you experienced, every emotion you had, every day of living, it gets processed through the brain. And then what's no longer helpful in the mind, in the brain, in storage of your memories will get filtered out. But there are still those stronger memories that, whether they're good or bad or however you want to label them, wanted or unwanted, are still there. And what I'm seeing is that what I hear gets said a lot from people is like, in general terms, of like, well, my generation never did that. And these young folk need to blah, 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 blah. But what happens is with every new generation, they're shedding the beliefs and things and causing change of the things that are no longer working so that new ways of doing life can occur, whether that's with style, with music, with verbiage, with texting, with how people show up on camera, with how we have relationships. It's changing every year. And sometimes there's some of us that have a hard time with that change and don't want that. But I think there are some of us who are more flexible in allowing that change to occur because we've cultivated, I feel, a relationship within ourselves that can be more flexible when that change occurs. Obviously, there are some changes that are so abrupt that it takes time to process it. Change of wanted or unwanted, good or bad, however you want to experience it, or however that experience was for you. And with every new generation, other triggers occur within us. So, like that question of like, why do they do that thing? They don't hustle like we did. Um, we would have never done that. We didn't have phones until blah, blah, blah. I didn't grow up with a phone. I believe that those are the moments where those parts of us that were that age gets to be part of the conversation of the current experience. Where it's like, yeah, maybe you didn't get to have a phone when you were XYZ age. But can you be okay? Can you find a place of healing within you, of being okay that you didn't have that experience and this person does or gets to or is currently? And I think that we ignore those moments of healing and then we become bitter. So those moments, I call those like trigger moments, and even in psychology, and I feel like this word is being used more frequently, or I am just more used to hearing it. I'm not quite sure. But when I say triggered, I'm saying like there's something that comes up within your heart, mind, body, soul, spirit, wherever you may feel it in your body, that you feel an emotion to that thing that was done, said, seen, whatever it may be, that you have or had an emotional experience, but maybe it happened differently for you in your past. And those moments are opportunities for healing, doing something differently, or simply allowing and acknowledging of whatever it is. And I believe that those are the moments when we actually get to connect with the self a little bit more so that we can experience life in a more with a in like fuller capacity. So I believe that we are in a moment where we are having an opportunity, whether we like it or not, whether it's comfortable or not, to come back to ourselves. And when I say come back to ourselves, I'm also saying acknowledging your personal history, acknowledging your experience and how you grew up and who you were around, who your relationships were with, and understanding your own experience. Not just from the perspective of like, I wish it was that way, or it should still be like this. Because there is one constant that will remain throughout your life and mine is that there will be change. But how we move with it or move against it or don't move at all when the change occurs will affect your quality of life and how you experience your own life. Now, yes, every single experience is different. There may be people around you that had a similar experience with you, like you, or with you, but not every experience will always be the truth for someone else. And so having these opportunities are opportunities to know ourselves. And so I presented the question of like, how do we trust ourselves? How do we even begin to trust ourselves? So what I was talking out with my guides was like, we have things like human design, we have things like astrology, tarot readings, mindfulness, yoga, religion, some religions, mindfulness practices, meditation, even therapy, working with a counselor, and other practices that are there to help support, guide, and even foster, and are pointing to the facts that it's important to know ourselves, to understand the inner child and the different ages of your life, even up to the point of where you are now, whether you're in adulthood or wherever you find yourself at in life, that who you are now is not the same person you were 6 months or even a year ago. You may look very similar, you may act very similar, you may even still hold the same beliefs and still do life around the people you do life around. But I think for a lot of us, we're like awakening to realizing and acknowledging the fact that knowing who we are individually not only takes time, but it is some of the most rewarding, most fulfilling work that we could ever do. And I'm not saying that having friendships, family, other relationships, romantic, non-romantic, are not important. Those very much are, but they're not the only aspect of who we are. It is part of the mirroring back to us of who we are. So there is a difference in knowing yourself from the perspective of your experience, your eyes, your body, you know, the relationship with yourself, and who your friends, family, and other people around you and other people in your community see you as. So I like to use food examples because I'm very much a foodie to help the mind make that connection. So the relationship with yourself compared to the relationship with someone outside of you, we'll say a friend like our family member, is different in that understanding that knowing within you of who you are. So, who you are can kind of look like this in an experience like this to help the mind make that connection. So, for you, in your experience, say you go to a pizza restaurant and you get your pizza, you get your salad, you get pasta, soup, whatever you want to eat. And you choose all the things that you love, that you enjoy, and you get your soda, tea, or whatever you like to drink with your pizza. And then you go sit down. And then on your plate is, I'm going to use my favorite pizza, a spinach mushroom pizza, a salad with ranch, a ooey gooey brownie, and a Dr. Pepper. And then your friends start to come and sit around you. And your friends, family around you at the table look at your plate, look at your tray, and they're like, why did you put ranch on your salad? I thought you were an olive oil and vinaigrette person. And then you think to yourself, and you have a moment to yourself to think, maybe I am. Why did I choose ranch? Olive oil and extra virgin, wait, olive oil and vinaigrette are so much better, so much healthier. But then you look at your plate and you're like, but I chose ranch because I like ranch. And then you look at that person and you're like, no, I like ranch. And you go about and you eat your food. But maybe typically you would have been like, yeah, you're right. Why did I choose ranch? Olive oil and vinaigrette taste so good. So you go, you get another salad plate, and you put on the olive oil and the vinaigrette and anything else you want on your salad. And then you sit down and you start eating that and you push aside the salad with ranch. And then you're eating the salad with just the olive oil and vinaigrette. And maybe there's some olives and croutons, tomatoes, cheese, whatever. And you're sitting there eating it like, I really want that salad with ranch. But you continue to eat the salad that they said you liked. But all the while you're eating it and you're like, I don't really want this. But you are kind of struggling between what they said you should want and what you really wanted. And right there, in that moment, in moments like that, that's where we begin to truly see ourselves, understand ourselves, and acknowledge who we are. And acknowledging who we are takes into consideration what we like, how we like to present ourselves, what we do, what we believe, what we don't believe in, where we go, what we do, and how we go about our day, and everything that supports you being an individual. But a lot of the times, where a lot of us get stuck, and I am one of those people that have gotten stuck there so many times and still do, is the majority of the time, I would and sometimes still am that person that's like, oh my God, yeah, you're right. I do love olive oil and some vinaigrette. And then I go into excuse making of like, I shouldn't have chosen that ranch. It's dairy. I'm lactose intolerant. Why are you even eating ranch? And I go down the self, like, deprecation, self, like, disacknowledgement of what I just chose for myself. And so my next question is, well, how do we get to know ourselves outside of everyone and everything that is around us? And can I be safe in asking this question of who am I? What do I like? Why do I like this? And I think that there are moments in our lives where it is important to allow yourself to sit in those questions and to allow yourself to question. But I think sometimes we get so caught up in life and sometimes it's so fast paced and it's easier to just say like I'm so busy, I don't have time. I'm telling you and I'm telling myself this too. We're missing out on magic, aha moments, God winks, God moments, synchronicities when we don't acknowledge what we truly want, even on the simplest level of I like ranch. I don't like olive oil and vinaigrette dressing. On that simplest of level, I believe we can truly cultivate a relationship with ourself and understanding who we are. And understanding who we are can start with what I like and what I don't like, wherever we're at any stage of life. Because maybe what you liked a year ago isn't what you like now. And instead of just like going for the thing that you always used to go for, eat, grab, do, try on, drink, go do, but it comes back to allowing that change. And change sometimes can be uncomfortable, and maybe there's some of us that don't want to disrupt anything because then it could cause problems. Who knows? And I think also in the unknown, the brain, and I've dealt with this too, the brain is like, mm-mm, I don't like it. No, we can't go there. But I don't think that you have to go there with guns blazing, with ripping off the band-aid. I think, and I'm understanding within myself too, that I can understand who I am by simply acknowledging what I do and do not like. I'll use this as an example. A year ago, you would find me at the store, in a grocery store, in my car, on vacation, wearing mostly black, even in the summer, even in the winter, pretty much all seasons. I would wear black, black bags. Majority of shoes were black. Black swimsuit, like there was a lot of black in my clothing, and I was okay with that. That was at that time the way I expressed myself because I was more interested in having my energy go before me and be the thing that expressed who I was. But now I feel like I have embodied more of that expressiveness within my outside world, within my clothes, within my bags, within how I decorate my room. And I think that it's okay to give ourselves permission by acknowledging that, yeah, I used to do that. I used to wear that. But right now, I'm feeling like wearing this, trying this on. I feel like this thing, this way of talking, this way of looking, this way of expressing, or even this way of not doing things is more who I am and feels more like me. So over time, I've allowed myself to embrace color. And I used to have more of an aversion to the color pink and orange and purple and yellows. And it just, at that time, it didn't match who I felt inside I was. But now I am very much that person that buys um charms for my Crocs, that buys and enjoys having charms for my bags and wearing more printed clothing. So I recently purchased this outfit on Amazon that had like so much color. that I swear a year or two ago I would have never bought. It has like a lime green snake, and I think like it's very much like tarot energy. And I think like a sun, maybe some moons, like there's blues, there's greens, there's orange, there's pink. Like the whole rainbow basically is on that clothing, but it's in a way that feels more like me now. And simply acknowledging that I liked that thing and I wanted that thing and then I bought it also solidifies within me who I am now. And so I go through bouts of getting rid of clothes and shoes and allowing the newer version of me to take up space. And even as an individual who has breasts, those things change over time. They just do. And so even purchasing new bras, new supportive clothing, like underwear, and allowing myself to not wear so much of sports bras is actually really affirming for who I am and who I want to be and how I want to show up in the world, how I want to present myself. So I still buy some stuff that's black, but I now also will purchase buy not just clothes, but things that have more color, whether it's like some flowers that are maybe more violet, more dark colored. And every once in a while, I'll match the frequency or enjoy the color of pink, orange, and even like lavender, like more, I guess, like a pastel purple. Like I'll connect with that in things like journals, calendars, flowers, real flowers, and also fake flowers. I do both. Sticky notes, pens. I love having different colored pens, markers, crayons, paints, highlighters. I love having different colored highlighters. And it's in aspects like these that when you notice it and you acknowledge it and you see the action for what it is, that too also helps you see who you are. You're not just an individual that works at a job, that then sleeps, that eats, that pays bills, that drives, travels. You have things to say, whether it's with how you show up every day, how you speak to the people you're around, your energy also changes as you simply acknowledge what you're seeing in yourself. And I think that the practice of, if you've ever heard of or have been asked to do, like standing in front of the mirror and like saying three things you like or something like that, I feel like the root of that and a lot of the modalities that are out there that I just mentioned, like astrology, meditation, mindfulness, yoga, human design, other stuff like that, it's all there to help us see ourselves. And yes, I believe that those things, tarot readings, energetic healing sessions, are there to support us, to help us see ourselves, to help us heal ourselves. But it's not the only thing, it's not the only perspective to see life, to do life. It is a point of view, and a point of view cannot see the full 360 of the experience in that it is. You cannot live in Texas and also see China. You can't, unless if you're looking on the internet worlds. So what do? We go and we travel to China in order to be able to see it, see the people, and experience their lives even for a moment. You can't live in Australia and also have an experience there and know what it's like to live in Canada. You see what I'm saying? Like, we go to these different places to see how their lives experiences culture, religion, everything that makes up their lives to the best of our ability. So that in maybe some internal subconscious, maybe consciously wanting to see a different part of ourselves. And for some of us, traveling like that really does help us access who we are. And we can access parts of who we are in being in different locations. Absolutely. We talk about that in human design as well. So, through that perspective, some people can understand that, oh, if I travel to so and so place, I can understand this part of who I am. And there's some of us that that doesn't really work for us, and that's okay too. All of that to say is that, and acknowledging, even within myself, that the anxious part of me, maybe even of you, that wants something to be maybe steady, maybe more factual, maybe even unchanging, isn't truly possible because everything changes. You and I are changing every day, and the things around us change as well. Even buildings. Sometimes the foundation causes cracks in the house. Sometimes a flower will be fully blossomed, and then in maybe a couple weeks, it will be closed and wilted and droopy. And even in people in authority, will to change, will to become droopy and saggy and sad. And also, you and I will change. We don't have to become saggy and sad, though. I think the more that we see ourselves and seeing ourselves through other means is helpful too. And that can help us in times at different parts of our lives to see ourselves. And I think that's what we're really looking for when we go to other people, tarot readings, other educators, other coaches, other mentors, other people in power, educators, teachers, basically anyone outside of ourselves that we go ask an opinion for. We're looking for that thing of like, who am I? Can you see me and can you help me see me? Can you help me see me? And sometimes those people do more damage than help. And sometimes those people don't actually know what they're doing. Some people say, pardon me, some people say that they are connected to divine, can hear, see, understand. And maybe for a time that worked for you to go to that person, that place, that thing, whatever that was. And maybe it's not right now. And maybe truly it's an opportunity to now go within and allow ourselves to practice, to try on, to even just try to trust ourselves. And if that's understanding your human design, your astrology, a tarot reading, other energy work, to see yourself. Okay, but that's not the only way to see yourself. That's not the only way for you to get to know yourself. It is a way, yes. I have even dove into human design, astrology, tarot, obviously I have religious background that I am still unwiring and rewiring and creating different neural pathways in my brain of thinking, believing, doing, and being in life and experiencing my life. So, with the undoing of things that are no longer serving me, for example, religious ways of thinking, are then other opportunities to allow to come in to believe differently, to do life differently. And I think with the letting go of whatever that is, by acknowledging who you are, even on the simplest of level of like, I like ranch, I don't like olive oil and vinaigrette, or maybe it's vice versa for you. there's grief. There's grief that happens in acknowledging that's no longer what I want, who I am, what I subscribe to, what I believe in, what I like, what I don't like, and so forth. And it's okay to allow yourself to grieve those things. Maybe even for some of it's clothing, it's bras, it's underwear, it's a dress, it's hair, maybe a different style in your hair, maybe a different color. Maybe and it's been this for me of like acknowledging that my body is a different size than it was a couple years ago. But what you believe about that and what you're letting go is the bridge to the next version of you. So I have the option, and I'll use myself as an example. I have the option to believe that. So a couple years ago, I was like a size 8, 10, around there. Like uh hips, torso, waist, whatever that is. I feel like my waist, my torso, and all of that is like I don't have much, so it's all the same thing. And then like I do have extra amount of boobage. I just do. It is what it is. And so like it all just kind of feels like it's all the same thing. Like, oh, curvy girls, you understand me. So I used to be like not curvy, and I think that there's grief that occurred for me, and maybe even sometime is still occurring between I'm no longer a size 8, I'm no longer a size 10, and I more than likely won't ever be this size again. And being at peace with that, and being at peace with that has looked like letting go of clothes that are I actually no longer fit in. And I think that part of acknowledging it, there's grief in that part. There's seeing it, there's acknowledging it, there's understanding it, and allowing myself to be sad that I'm no longer that size because even within my ancestors, my family line, my genes, my blood, within the belief system of women in my family, a lot of their self-worth has been in the size of their body. Because if I look a certain way, the belief was if I look a certain way, if I'm presented in a certain way, then a man will like me, love me, marry me, and I'll be okay. So it's like a survival instinct, rather, truthfully. And since I am letting go of that belief, and that belief actually doesn't serve me, especially as a lesbian, like in the lesbian world, a curvy girl is actually loved, enjoyed, appreciated, seen, acknowledged, and is not going to like not have value if they're not skinny straight. You know what I mean? Like a curvy girl is very much deeply appreciated because in the lesbian culture, not that it's perfect, but to the best of my awareness up to this point, a curvy girl in a woman's body is actually understood and is not disregarded. It's not disregarded. So I have let go, and there's layers of grief, okay? There are layers of grief when it comes to that part of allowing the sadness to be there, but not feeling pressured to have to get to a resolve and to hurry up and move out of a sadness. Sometimes it's okay to just be in it. And once you have accepted whatever it is, but in this situation, for me to fully accept that I am a curvy girl, I have boobs, I have butt, I have a waist that's not straight. you know, I have a body that looks differently than it did a couple years ago. And now, finally being in a place where I feel like I can say and acknowledge within myself that it is okay to accept your body and how it looks now. And I know that there's many of you that will or are understanding of that because you've gone through your own process, even if it was through pregnancy or not pregnancy. On some level, women, femme presenting, those of us with uteruses, every single month we go through changes in our body, whether our uterus is still there or if it was removed. Our body literally goes through changes monthly, yearly, and as we age. There's a lot of change that occurs. And so we we get to go through whether we like it or not, different stages and different layers of grief. I think for me, my relationship with grief is like an onion because there's different parts to the things that I've grieved or am grieving. And then there are the subsections within those things of the stages of grief. So, in one area of my life, I may already be at acceptance and living in that new acknowledgement of that. Versus in other stages of my life, I'm still sad. I'm not at the place of acknowledging or recognizing, maybe not recognizing, but I'm not ready to be at the acceptance part of grief. So grief looks different for everyone. And I think when it comes to grief, that is definitely involved in acknowledging who we are, what we want, and who we are right now. That is not the same person 6 months ago, or will be the same person 6 months from now, or a year. But in that acknowledgement, in that relationship within the self, as that gets exercised, we'll be able to be more flexible as the changes occur within ourselves and outside of ourselves. And I feel that the most important part in the changes that occur within ourselves is allowing this body to be home. So, you know how your home, maybe this is true for you. I'll use myself as an example. In my home where I live, in the different places I have lived, places meaning size of room, location as well, but pretty much within the same city that I live, w- I I tend to rearrange or redecorate my space, but typically within the last year or so, it took me a while to finally decorate this space that I'm in because I was so in disacknowledgement of the current state of my life that wasn't where I thought it should be. And so once I finally accepted the stage of my life and where I am at, and I was able to understand even from a broader perspective of why my life is how it is. A lot, there were some things, maybe not a lot. I don't know. I don't want to put like an amount on it, a lot or a little, but there were things outside of my um ability to change that occurred to me that then caused me to be at this place and stage of my life. And so accepting of where I am, what my life looks like around me. Once I accepted it, I felt more safe to decorate it and to make it feel more like how I want to be expressive. And it took me a while to realize how I wanted to even express myself in my space and allow different patterns and color and texture and photos and just things and trinkets to be allowed. And I feel like that was an extension of allowing myself to take up space because there was this belief that I was untangling and letting go of that I wasn't allowed to take up space. And I didn't feel safe to take up a space. And so after going through some major healing in that part, and it's still being healed, I finally felt safe enough within myself to acknowledge, like, hey, I do love and like checkered things. I do love and like gaming, and I would love to be able, or not just would love to be able, but acknowledge, like, I would like to bring that out into my space a little bit. So when I can see something outside of me that expresses who I am in texture and color, in something as simple as a pen, that's all part of cultivating the relationship within myself, who I am, what I'm about. And I don't think that those things should be disregarded. I think that that feedback of even acknowledging, I love writing with a, what is this? Fine tip colored pen. Others of you may like a gel. Others of you may prefer to do pencils. And that's all important feedback to the self to see who we are. Not that it's like a thing to hold on to, like, this is who I am. It is just a characteristic. It's an expression. It's an acknowledgement and an understanding, even in something as simple as a pen, of who I am, who you are. And once we can acknowledge those things, and not in any certain order, honestly, then there's this next level of self-acceptance with the body, with our spirit, with the mind, with the heart, with things outside of us, an acknowledgement and a self-acceptance. Because when you see yourself, even in something as simple as preferring to write with orange versus black or purple versus red, you are cultivating a relationship within yourself where you're trusting yourself. Because instead of always going for the olive oil and vinaigrette, you finally allow yourself to go for the ranch. You went for the thing that you liked versus what you didn't like. That's cultivating self-trust. It's like, oh my God, that inner self, that inner child, that's part of cultivating a relationship is with your inner child that is carried with us. Those parts don't just leave just because we got older, just because we turned a different age. Acknowledging those things cultivates a relationship with the self. And through that, through those things, we're able to trust ourselves more and more. And it's a practice. It is literally a daily practice. Like you go to work, like you go into your car, like learning to walk, like learning to write. It's a daily practice. And a week from now, that relationship with yourself will be stronger. A month from now, it'll be stronger. A year from now, that relationship within yourself will be so much stronger that you begin to truly trust yourself when you make decisions. And so many of us have such decision fatigue because we've been taught that those overpower of us in any institution, in any industry, even growing grocery shopping, should be the say, should be the rule or law of how you should and shouldn't have your own life, do your own life. And giving yourself permission to acknowledge what you like gives you the answer for why you like it and why you don't. And as that becomes stronger, the relationship within yourself becomes more expansive. It becomes more open. It becomes this world that you can partake in, be active in, and you're ignoring yourself less. As we ignore ourselves less and less, our power within ourselves becomes stronger because that relationship within yourself is the answer that you need, is the power that you need within you. Yes, all these things outside of you can help you see yourself, but ultimately, they can't be your end all be all. And I have to remind myself this over and over again. Human design is not the end all be all. Astrology is not the end all be all. A religion, a president, a teacher, an educator, a coach, a mentor, a friend, a family, a neighbor, the postman, none of them will truly be in your shoes and experience what you experience. They may or may not have empathy or compassion or be able to actually hear you out, but they don't truly understand who you are. Only you have the power to do that. Only you have the power to understand your beliefs, what you stand for, and what you don't. And that power within you is that which we are reclaiming. That power within you is the power for you to understand what decision you will do or not do, move towards or move away from. That inner decision making ability is already within you. It is not within anyone else outside of you. Yes, they can be guides. And yes, those things are helpful and are supportive. But at the end of the day, they are not the thing to overpower who you are. And that's where the shift takes place, even on a global scale. Those people in power are only in power because we are here. So, in fact, they don't have the power. In fact, you do inside of you. And it's waking up to that power, what that is, what that looks like, and that relationship within yourself where you awaken and see yourself and become stronger and strengthen that relationship within yourself, and that decision making ability, pardon me, will become more true to who you are. Again, I'm not just telling this to you, I'm telling this to myself. And the journey from where you are now to getting to that place of better understanding who you are and cultivating that relationship within yourself takes time. It takes time. Sometimes some of us don't want to wait to understand who we fully are and would prefer to hear it from somebody else outside of us. And if that's part of your journey, that's part of your journey. But I am beginning to understand as I am saying this out loud that only you can do you the way that you can do you. And what supports that belief is part of what we just talked about and beginning to trust yourself. And maybe you're at a different stage where you do trust yourself a little bit, but maybe it's just like strengthening that trust within yourself. The magic is within you. It's not outside of you. The magic is within you. It's not held in anybody else's hands or knowledge or understanding or abilities. Just because they have abilities doesn't make them more powerful than you. It's only the power that we give unto them. Sometimes we do that subconsciously. So we're in this moment in time in history where we are taking that power back. And not all parts of taking our power back will happen overnight. It will take multiple sleep cycles. It will take grief, self-acknowledgement, self-love, in cultivating that self-trust. And if you're like me, every day you have to be reminded of who you are, where you come from, who came before you, that they're still with you, your ancestors, your loved ones, even friends, and maybe non-blood related family, guides, familiars, angels, universal is with us and is part of who we are. And we can definitely access their knowledge. The ultimate where it all happens is right now, in your right now moment. And in your self-trust journey, it also takes allowing yourself to be present in your life right now. And maybe it just starts with being present in certain parts of the day. It doesn't have to be every single second of your day. Maybe it's just being present in your mornings, maybe just by allowing yourself to physically actually see where you are, what you're doing, and how you feel, what you're wearing, just what's around you. That's a mindfulness practice. Mindfulness is a beautiful tool to use in getting present into the here and now. And maybe it's only for 5 or 10 minutes out of your day. But I'm remembering too that those 5 to 10 minutes actually help the anxiety to calm down. And yeah, there's a lot of things that are messed up, fucked up, and there's a lot of problems in daily life, I mean, on so many levels, not just your everyday life of getting to work or getting to the thing. There's struggles, there's challenges, there's things that are in our control, there's things that are out of our control, conversations being had. There's a lot of that. That if you just give it some of your attention, it's easily to get caught up in how much of a problem things are and the struggle that it is. And that is true, but it doesn't have to have our attention all day, every second of the day. And just giving it our attention isn't the only way to give the problem, whatever that is, or problems, a solution. Solutions can also come up after we've rested, in conversations, through dreams, and also in being present in your moment. And maybe over time, you become more present throughout your day as we cultivate a practice within ourselves of self trust and all the things that are there to support self trust. It's not just like, I gotta trust myself, I gotta trust myself. Like, self trust is a thing that happens within. And it's only the work that we can do individually. No one can make us trust ourselves. They may be able to help us see different parts where we're not able to see, and it is important to be in community and to have people around us to support our well-being and our livelihood. But it's also important. And I don't want to put another like warning or red flag or yield or another extra importance on top of all the other things around us that are important and that need our attention in daily life, in family, in work, in doing everything we do daily, as we also fight for freedom and stand up to the wrongs, and not just in conversation with people, with family, friends, that feels like a fight, all this other stuff that causes and affects life, and it's more of a struggle, are true, are very much real, and are very much there. But like I said, they don't have to have our attention every second of the day. And I believe in us that we can begin to trust ourselves, maybe again, and maybe for the first time. And in allowing that internal awareness, that internal relationship to be there and allow it to come forth. And over time, our self-trust will be powerful, and maybe even powerful enough to be our guide, where we are guiding ourselves. Not necessarily separate from our community and those around us, but like something that we can always come back to as home, as a safe space, as a place that we can go to that's maybe like an oasis, that's maybe like something we enjoy being around, someone we enjoy being around and being with. And I think it's very true that it's okay to like ourselves, to love ourselves on every level, even on the micro levels of liking what we see, liking who we are, and allowing ourselves to see ourselves. And this work is not done overnight, it's cultivated. This relationship with ourselves is cultivated over time. And in a way of like how I like to think of it, with my relationship with myself, with the trust that I have within myself, it's kind of like a crock pot meal. It has to stew over time. It has to cook slowly And if it gets cooked too fast, it won't taste good. But when it marinates and it slowly incorporates all the different ingredients and flavors that are in there, then it is so good to enjoy. It is so good to take in. It is so good to just be around. When it's winter time and the crock pot is going on, sometimes I just love smelling what's being cooked and enjoying that. And then maybe a little later, I'll come back and I'm like, oh, that smells good. Like that, I feel like is a picture memory to hold as we cultivate the self-trust and relationship within ourselves. Because it's going to be different than those around us. Like the way you cook stew is not going to be the same way that I cook stew. You might cook it with dairy. I don't cook it with dairy, but those things affect the flavor. What you add, what you don't add, and that beauty in something that has marinated and taken time is that quality, that depth that I think we all long for. And then it's like, we can come together and we can share with those that we feel safe around to share our energy, our crock pot energy. We can share that with those that we love and we care about and feel safe enough to be vulnerable around. And it's like, I learned about this about myself, that I don't like tomatoes in my stew. I love carrots instead. They give it such a beautiful color and aroma. Or I prefer using leeks over onions and so many other things like that quality, like a wine that gets to sit over time or a whiskey and all those things that go through a major process and then you get to enjoy. Even like tequila, that shit takes forever to make, it seems. And so much goes into making it. Same as a crock pot, same as wine, same as whiskey and bourbon and beer. Anything of good quality takes time, as is the relationship within ourselves. It's going to take time for this relationship to be a healthy, multifaceted relationship. And to begin is just to acknowledge that we can begin. And to be a learner again, be a beginner again, and that there's nothing wrong with being a beginner and being a student again and learning something new, doing it differently maybe than you have before. It's okay to go back to the school of life because I don't think we ever leave that. Maybe for a lot of us, life, we really learned life in our 20s and our teenage years, but I think that we can still learn 30s, 40s, and beyond. There's always more to become a better quality. But what it is now is what it is now at whatever level it is. And whatever that is, that's okay. But we don't have to do it alone. So hear me, those things that we go to are also part of our journey. And if it is part of your journey to get pieces of information from other people outside of yourself, beautiful. That's beautiful. That's a beautiful journey. But may it not be the only way that you see and acknowledge yourself. May it not be the only way you experience this life, as is the hard stuff to experience. Will there also be a capacity to experience the good that is for you and I? And I keep telling myself that as a reminder that the good is for me as much as and as hard or as bad as the tougher things in life that you and I have experienced. So allow whatever it is for you to be whatever it is for you. Acknowledge it when you're ready. See it for what it is. And then when you're ready to cultivate that relationship within yourself, know that it's going to be such a fulfilling journey. It is going to be so much more that I could even put into words. And it's going to be your experience. and not mine and not anyone else's. And whatever you experience is absolutely true and absolutely for you. And I'm going to remind you and I with this that whatever you're experiencing, physical level, spiritual level, educational, wherever you're at in life is true for you and is part of your journey, wherever you are, however life is going. It's part of the experience. So allow yourself to experience it, and may no harm be caused to you or I as we go throughout this experience. And may you be held and loved and cared for in every stage of your life. And may who's for you be for you, and may who, what, thing, place, thing, whatever it is, if it's not for you, may it not be for you. And may that simply be it as we journey through self-trust. So, thank you for talking this out with me. It was truly a big aha moment for me, as I am an individual that is still working through lack of self-trust and replacing that lack of self-trust with current Nessa trust in self. And as I remove the voices and the opinions and the energies that are no longer needed to be around. And I'm going to do that with love, with grace, with patience, and with the cycles of grief. And I'm going to hold myself in the stages of life that I'm in with love, compassion, acknowledgement. And like I used to say when I was a little girl, and I would be my mom would be taking us to school, and my prayer went something like this. We would always pray in the car, but it went like this, that something I would say something along the lines of like, may all the good stuff and not the bad stuff happen today. And I would literally imagine myself holding like this cup of ice cream, and it piled high with scoops and scoops and scoops of ice cream. And then I would imagine somebody tried to put like a cigarette or a thorn or a nail in my ice cream that I didn't want in there because it wasn't like strawberry syrup or caramel or chocolate or whatever else I liked on ice cream. I pretty much just liked vanilla ice cream by itself. I know that that probably says a lot about me, but it is what it is. And I would imagine when I said all the good stuff and not the bad stuff, that the bad stuff would just disintegrate and it would just not be there. And all of like maybe the cherries and the stuff and the whipped cream on top would just remain. And it was almost like I was saying, may the things that are not for me not be, may I be protected from my guides, from my ancestors, and everyone else that is here to help support me in the unseen realm. But whatever is for me, whatever I do need to experience, may that be, but may that struggle or whatever that is, that quote bad thing, whatever label was on it that I put on it or would put on it, not remain as part of my experience. And that through it all, may I experience joy, love, happiness. And so for me, happiness is multiple scoops of vanilla ice cream. And that still remains true today. So, whatever that is for you, may you experience all the good stuff. And that if there's any part bad that is part of your experience, may it not remain any longer than needed. And may your guides, your ancestors, protect you in your everyday life. And so, with that, I will sign off for now, and we'll come back and we're going to have more conversations. And hopefully, very soon, I have some more guests, like my sisters, on this channel. and we're going to continue doing life one step at a time. Sending you so much love. I'll see you guys very soon. Bye.